3 weeks into this war, the United States military has been telling the world that Iran cannot touch American aircraft, that Iran's skies are open, that its defenses are gone. Then an F-35 came home with a hole in it. Not a drone, not a surveillance plane. The most advanced, most expensive, most sophisticated fighter jet ever built, forced into an emergency landing at an undisclosed base somewhere in the Middle East after taking a hit over central Iran. The first confirmed hostile strike on a U.S. aircraft since this conflict began. And here's what makes this moment different from everything else you have heard about this war. It happened hours before senior American officials stood in front of cameras and told the world that nobody was even shooting at them anymore. So what actually brought down that aircraft? What technology did Iran use? And why has Washington known about it for years without saying a word publicly? And what does all of this mean for where this war is heading next? Stay with me, because what you are about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about this fight. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps moved fast. Within hours of the incident, they released a formal statement claiming direct responsibility. According to the IRGC, the strike happened at approximately 2:50 in the morning local time over central Iranian airspace. They described the weapon used as an advanced next-generation air defense system operated by the Revolutionary Guard's Aerospace Force. They claimed the jet took serious damage. They claimed its fate was unknown. They even claimed the strike came after their forces had already intercepted more than 125 American and Israeli drones that same night. Alongside that statement came video released through Fars News. The footage shows what appears to be an infrared tracking system locking onto an aircraft in flight, followed by a surface-to-air missile making contact on the left side of the airframe. The final frame shows something that looks like a fluid leak next to the heat signature of the engine. Now, before you accept that footage as proof of anything, you need to understand Iran's history with exactly this kind of claim. The IRGC overclaims. That is not speculation. That is their documented pattern. Earlier in this same war, Iranian-linked groups rushed to take credit for 3 F-15E Strike Eagles that went down on March 1st. Those losses turned out to be the result of Kuwaiti-friendly fire. Nothing to do with Iran. The IRGC also claimed responsibility for the KC-135 Stratotanker crash in western Iraq on March 12th, the one that killed all 6 crew members on board. Central Command investigated and stated clearly that crash was not caused by hostile fire of any kind. And back in October 2024, Iranian media pushed images of supposedly destroyed Israeli F-35s that analysts almost immediately identified as digitally fabricated. So the IRGC's word on its own means very little. But this time, something changed. And the difference is not coming from Tehran. Central Command confirmed it themselves. Navy Captain Tim Hawkins, the official CENTCOM spokesperson, stated that a U.S. F-35 was conducting a combat mission over Iran when it was forced to perform an emergency landing at a U.S. airbase in the Middle East. He confirmed the aircraft landed. He confirmed the pilot is in stable condition. Stable condition. Pay close attention to that phrase because it is carrying more weight than it appears to. Stable does not mean uninjured. Stable does not mean the pilot walked off the aircraft and went to dinner. In military communications, stable is the word used when officials need to confirm someone is alive without giving you anything else. It is the language of damage control, not reassurance. And the details that CENTCOM chose not to release tell you just as much as the ones they did. The specific variant of the F-35, not disclosed. Which branch of the military operates it, not disclosed. The extent of damage to the airframe, not disclosed. The name or location of the base it landed at, not disclosed. There is a pattern that holds across every military in the world. When the story is clean, details come out. When the story is not clean, the details disappear. What came out of CENTCOM on this incident was the absolute minimum required to get ahead of reporting that was already breaking publicly. Now consider what was being said publicly at the exact same time this was unfolding. That morning, the same morning the F-35 had already been hit hours earlier, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood before reporters and announced that the day ahead would see the largest strike package yet flown over Iran. He said American forces were winning decisively, and the word he used for Iranian air defenses was not degraded, it was not suppressed, it was not reduced, flattened. That is not the language of a careful operational briefing. That is the language of someone declaring total victory. And that declaration was made after the F-35 had already gone down, while the military was still in the middle of figuring out exactly what had hit it. That does not mean Hegseth deliberately misled anyone, but it does mean his public message was running well ahead of what had actually been confirmed on the ground. And then, that same afternoon, President Trump sat in the Oval Office alongside the Japanese Prime Minister and told reporters that Iran's Navy was gone, its Air Force was gone, its anti-aircraft equipment was gone, its leaders were gone. He said, and this is the direct line that matters, "We are flying wherever we want. We have nobody even shooting at us." CNN's Daniel Dale flagged the timestamp on that statement. Trump said those words minutes after the network had already broken the F-35 story to the public. Nobody even shooting at us. We need to sit with that line because the deeper you look at what Iran still has operating in the field, the more that claim falls apart. And the technology that likely put a hole in that aircraft is something the Pentagon has been aware of for years. It just never made for a comfortable press conference topic. Most people think the F-35 is untouchable, and that belief is not irrational. It was built on real capability. The aircraft has a radar cross-section roughly the size of a metal golf ball. It carries the aérienne ASQ-239 Barracuda electronic warfare suite, a system specifically engineered to detect incoming radar signals, jam them, and give the pilot time to react and survive. Against a conventional radar-guided threat, the F-35 is genuinely dangerous to engage. The system radiates, the F-35 sees it, the pilot gets a warning, and the aircraft responds. That is exactly how it is supposed to work. But here is the problem. That entire defensive architecture is built around one assumption, that the threat is using radar. What if it is not? Tyler Rogoway, editor of The War Zone, looked at the footage released by Iran and pointed out something that should have made headlines far beyond the defense community. If the video is authentic, the tracking system shown is consistent with a passive sensor, a guidance system that operates on infrared and electro-optical technology rather than radar, and a passive system emits zero radio frequency signal. Nothing goes out. Nothing can be detected. Nothing triggers a cockpit alert. Think about what that means in practice. The Barracuda suite is scanning for radar emissions. A passive infrared system gives it absolutely nothing to scan. No signal means no warning. No warning means the pilot does not know the threat exists until the missile is already in the air. A passive or low-emission air defense system does not make the F-35 defenseless, but it does strip away a significant portion of the warning time and jamming advantages the aircraft relies on against conventional threats. And this is not a new vulnerability that suddenly appeared. Rogoway himself wrote about this exact scenario on March 5th, weeks before this incident. He warned that Iran operates road-mobile air defense systems that can reposition constantly. Systems that can hide, move, and reappear somewhere completely different before anyone has time to target them. He warned that Iran possesses exotic systems, including loitering surface-to-air missiles. And he warned explicitly that pushing manned fighters into direct attack roles over Iranian airspace does not mean those aircraft can move freely without risk. Washington knew, the military knew, and the public was told the opposite anyway. This same category of passive infrared threat is what Houthi forces in Yemen have used to bring down American MQ-9 Reaper drones, some of the most capable unmanned platforms in the U.S. inventory. The difference now is that the target is no longer a drone. The target is a $100 million stealth fighter. The cost imbalance that has defined modern warfare for years has just reached an entirely new tier. Let me put a number on that. The F-35 program has cost the United States more than $1.7 trillion across its lifetime. It is the single most expensive weapons program ever undertaken by any military in human history. One airframe, just the aircraft itself, costs over $100 million. If the weapon that brought it down was a surface-to-air missile fired from a road mobile launcher, that missile likely cost somewhere between tens of thousands and a few $1 million, a fraction of its target, and it worked. That asymmetry is not new in concept. Cheap weapons defeating expensive ones has been the story of drone warfare for a decade, but this is the first time that equation has reached the stealth level, where a low-cost system punched through the most advanced defensive technology on the planet and sent it limping to a base nobody will name. Now here is the system that may have done it. The Bavar 373 is Iran's most capable domestically developed air defense platform. Iran markets it as comparable to Russia's S-400. That comparison is debatable among analysts. What is not debatable is that the system is road mobile, which means it does not sit in a fixed location waiting to be destroyed. The upgraded Bavar 373 variant, unveiled in February 2025, goes further. It features independent launcher stations where each transporter erector launcher carries its own radar. That architectural choice matters enormously. Even if a strike takes out the central command node, the individual launchers keep operating on their own. The network does not collapse when you hit the center. Iran claims the system can detect targets at 450 kilometers, track them at 405, and engage beyond 300. Independent analysts who have studied the system's realistic performance against a low radar signature aircraft like the F-35 put the actual engagement range closer to 90 kilometers. But 90 kilometers is still 90 kilometers. That is a kill zone wide enough to cover an entire flight corridor, wide enough that an aircraft flying a strike mission has no guarantee of passing through it safely, and you cannot solve that problem by bombing fixed sites. A road mobile system moves, it hides, it repositions before the next sortie arrives. You cannot jam a signal that does not exist. You cannot target a launcher you cannot find, and you cannot protect against an infrared-guided missile using an electronic warfare suite built to counter radar. So let us look at where things actually stand, not where the briefings say they stand, but where the evidence points. Central Command says US forces have struck more than 7,000 targets across Iran and its military infrastructure over the past 19 days. More than 100 Iranian naval vessels have been damaged or sunk. Israeli intelligence reports that Iranian missile production has been driven to zero. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper says 70% of Iran's missile launches have been neutralized. Those are genuinely significant numbers, and they deserve to be acknowledged for what they are. But here is what those numbers sit alongside. 13 American service members are dead, around 200 have been wounded. 5 KC-135 refueling tankers were damaged on the ground at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia from a direct Iranian missile strike on March 15th. Iran has struck Dubai International Airport. It has hit airports, diplomatic missions, and energy infrastructure across Gulf states. Drone strikes have affected facilities in the UAE and Bahrain. Iran bombed the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad and struck the British base at RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. The Strait of Hormuz remains actively contested, and Gulf oil exports have dropped by at least 60%. And not one close American ally has joined this fight. Britain refused to send minesweepers despite a direct personal request from President Trump, the same president who called the UK the Rolls-Royce of allies. The European Union's top foreign policy official said plainly that this is not Europe's war, that Europe did not start it, and that Europe was never consulted. France positioned the Charles de Gaulle in the Mediterranean but made clear it will not escort ships until active fighting stops. China ignored the request entirely, and Trump's planned trip to Beijing has been pushed back by a full month. Then there is the ground question, the one that nobody in Washington seems eager to answer publicly. The IRGC released a separate video this week showing a commander from their ground forces looking directly into the camera. His message was short and deliberate. He said his forces had been waiting for this day for years. At the same time, the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit out of Okinawa, along with the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group, has been moving toward the region. The USS Tripoli was spotted approaching Singapore. If a ground component is being prepared, Iran is making one thing very clear. They have spent decades getting ready for exactly that scenario. And inside the administration itself, the cracks are starting to show. Trump's own top counterterrorism official, Joe Kent, resigned this week. His stated reason was direct. Iran posed no imminent threat, and in his assessment, this war should never have been launched. So here is the full picture, laid out plainly. The plan was flattened air defenses. The reality is an F-35 forced into an emergency landing over central Iran on the very morning that claim was made public. The plan was that nobody is shooting at us. The reality is, CENTCOM confirmed a hostile fire incident hours before the president said those words on camera. The plan was a 4 to 5 week operation. The reality is day 19, with a Marine Expeditionary Unit deploying and no defined exit strategy on the table. The plan was total air dominance over Iran. The reality is road mobile launchers, passive infrared guidance systems, and a $100 million aircraft sitting at an undisclosed base with damage nobody in Washington will describe. The plan was Allied support. The reality is Britain said no, France said not yet, China said nothing, and Europe said this war belongs to someone else. And the one question that the entire American national security apparatus is avoiding right now is the only one that actually matters. If flattened air defenses still means an F-35 can get hit, and if nobody shooting at us still means a pilot sitting in stable condition at a base they will not name, what exactly are they going to say when the next aircraft does not make it back at all? If you want to keep following this conflict as it develops, hit subscribe. Every new update goes straight to your feed the moment it drops. And for everything that has happened in the past 24 hours that we did not cover here, the next video is already waiting for you on screen. Every aircraft now flying over Iranian airspace carries a risk that no amount of stealth engineering can fully eliminate.